Chapter 451. Bradley sat nonchalantly on a nearby bench, smoking. Nash also smiled while comforting him, saying, "Don't worry, this is Ken's opportunity." Finn looked defeated. No matter how incredible the hand is, it's still someone else's. It surely feels different than one's own. At that moment, Madame Lunaris walked out of the room with Ken. Ken's entire right hand was wrapped in bandages. Nash immediately used his third eye to inspect it. After all, having invested 3 billion, he had to check the results. Black scales covered Ken's right hand. His palm still had 5 fingers, but the nails resembled eagle claws. By appearance alone, it no longer looked human. The blood and tendons in the hands had established a blood circulation system. Meanwhile, the bones held an unsettling power. "How do you feel, Ken?" Finn asked immediately, concerned about the 3 billion Nash had invested. Ken replied in a daze, "I can't feel any pain." He had been knocked out by Madame Lunaris as soon as he entered the room and had no idea about what had transpired. When he woke up, he found his hand bandaged and even doubted if he still had a hand. Madame Lunaris laughed sinisterly. "The anesthesia hasn't worn off. Of course, you can't feel pain." Then, she snorted coldly. "You're lucky. I merely didn't want to bring that thing into my coffin." "What thing?" Finn asked, puzzled. Everyone also looked at Madame Lunaris for answers. "Something valuable." Madame Lunaris did not want to explain too much, then looked at Nash and asked, "How about it, Mr. Young? Are you satisfied?" Nash responded politely, "Very satisfied." Madame Lunaris glanced at the ring on Nash's finger and slowly walked back into the house. Driven by curiosity, Melody asked, "What was that thing Madame Lunaris mentioned? Is it related to Ken's exchange?" "It's hard to explain." "Come on. I funded that 3 billion. I'll pay you back when we get home. I want interest." "It's now 3.5 billion. The day quickly passed. After a good rest, they prepared to return to Johnford. Not wanting to endure another lengthy journey, Nash booked plane tickets. Melody also made an excuse to leave with Heidi and Nash. On the plane, Melody kept pestering Nash about what Madame Lunaris had done to Ken. She was very curious and simply would not let it go. Nash pretended to be asleep, ignoring Melody's pleas. "Just tell me, Mr. Nash." Melody even tried to act cute. Nonetheless, Nash was not budging. He simply pretended to have fallen asleep. "Hey, man, I'll remember this." Melody fumed, feeling like giving him a piece of her mind. Heidi whispered, "Mel, I once heard my dad mention that Madame Lunaris took a bottle of unicorn blood from an ancient tomb in Skedom." Melody's eyes widened. "Unicorn blood?" Heidi nodded. "Yes. It's said to be from the king of Skedom, Wendell Dakin's tomb. He allegedly hunted a unicorn." "King Wendell Dakin, the grandfather of King Christian Dakin," Melody exclaimed in shock. "That's a tomb from over 3,000 years ago. Is the unicorn blood story reliable?" "I did some research at the time. The historical records don't mention much about King Wendell, so it's hard to verify," Heidi whispered. "So, you think Madame Lunaris might have injected unicorn blood into the severed palm of the undead corpse king?" Melody speculated. "Well, that's what I think. Since Nash doesn't want to share, all we can do is guess." Heidi smirked, glancing at Nash. "You're really something, to have actually guessed it right." Chapter 452. Bradley had whispered to Nash about this matter. Back then, he simply mentioned that Madame Lunaris might possess unicorn blood. Unicorns were legendary creatures, while outsiders might dismiss such tales. Nash believed them without hesitation. After all, if immortal cultivators existed, why not legendary beasts? Otherwise, Madame Lunaris would not have boldly demanded a sky-high price of 3 billion. Was it really unicorn blood? Melody's eyes widened in surprise. She had thought Heidi was just making up a story to provoke Nash. Yet everything Heidi said turned out to be true. "I'm not 100% sure, but what I can confirm is that the severed hand will significantly boost Ken's power." Nash also could not confirm if it was unicorn blood, but he felt a terrifying energy within Ken's right hand's bones and blood. "Holy moly, then this is genuinely a unicorn arm. But come to think of it, We just picked Ken up on the road. Is it worth investing 3 billion on him? Melody was somewhat puzzled. This was not 300,000 or 3 million, but a whopping 3 billion. Even with her vast wealth, she felt the pinch. After a pause, she continued to mutter, Finn's been with you for some time. Wouldn't it have been better to spend that 3 billion on him instead of Ken? Nash replied with a smile. Wouldn't it have been even better if I had given you that hand? I definitely don't want it. Melody shook her head quickly. The hand of the undead corpse king was so unsightly. She would not want it attached to her. That settles it then. I did ask Finn, didn't I? He didn't want it, so there was nothing I could do. Nash looked amused and resigned. He was not sure if Melody was more concerned about the 3 billion or that she found Ken unreliable. Melody sighed helplessly. The money had already been spent. There was no point in arguing. After a moment's thought, Nash explained, Ken has been to Selene and Holy Marshal but was expelled from both. He even faced persecution from his enemies later on. His difficult life shaped his introverted nature. A person like him, in his quest to become stronger, would sacrifice everything. He's probably the only one willing to accept the hand of the undead corpse king. A spark appeared in Melody's eyes. Are you trying to cultivate a force to combat the Kleins? The Kleins had numerous martial arts experts. While Nash was at a disadvantage to topple such a behemoth, he definitely needed to nurture a powerful martial arts force. Nash just smiled and remained silent. He simply did not want to waste the undead corpse king's severed hand. Upon learning that Madame Lunaris might have unicorn blood, he was even more tempted. The combination of unicorn blood and the undead corpse king's severed hand would be incredibly powerful. He did not want these items to fall into others' hands. Of course, Melody had a point. Winning Ken's loyalty was his primary objective. The 3 billion was well spent, or it could even be considered a steal. Upon arriving at Johnford Airport, Melody planned to treat Heidi to a luxurious stay at a 5-star hotel. Meanwhile, Nash decided to take a cab back to Royal Bay. Kira didn't come to pick you up? Melody asked curiously when she saw Nash hailing a cab. I didn't exactly tell her. Well, in that case, buy her some flowers and gifts. You haven't seen each other in such a long time. You have to give a little surprise, no? Melody said with a smile. Thanks for the reminder. I'll keep that in mind. Nash had not thought of this. He instructed the taxi driver to head to Johnford's best flower shop. The driver made a U-turn and said with a smile, There's a new florist called Warm Flower Garden that just opened today. They're offering a 50% discount on all flowers. Want to go there? Maybe not. How awkward would it be if word got out that I bought discounted flowers for my wife? Nash replied with a raised eyebrow and a smile. Chapter 453. Hey now, it's not about the discount. Warm Flower Garden just opened, and the quality of their flowers is much higher than other flower shops. Shouldn't you aim for quality when buying goods? When buying flowers for your wife, it shows your passion for love. The better the quality of the flowers, the more thoughtful it is. No, the taxi driver said as he glanced at Nash through the rearview mirror with a cheeky grin. Nash nodded in agreement. That makes sense. Let's head to Warm Flower Garden then. Warm Flower Garden was located in the heart of Johnford. The store was spacious with various fresh flower samples displayed in glass cabinets. Outside, pots of plants were arranged, and the ground was littered with remnants of flower petals. As Nash stepped out of the car, a young woman dressed as a maid with twin ponytails greeted him with a warm smile. Good day, sir. Our store has a grand opening offer today. All flowers are at a 50% discount. Her voice was sweet, making Nash feel as if he was bathed in a spring breeze. All right, show me around. Right this way, sir. She gestured with a welcoming hand motion. As they entered, she inquired, Are the flowers for a family member or a lover? For my lover. May I ask about her personality? Her face maintained a sweet smile, but Nash noticed a hint of sadness in her eyes. Perhaps she had been hurt in love before. She's gentle and kind, and a bit cute, I suppose, said Nash, thinking of Hira and smiling slightly. The young woman led Nash to another counter and recommended, I suggest you buy these 99 pink roses, sir. They symbolize profound love. The elegant and unobtrusive color of the pink roses can surely capture the heart of most women. Moreover, they're imported from Love God Castle in Floraland. The original price was $3,880, but today, they're just $1,880. Finishing her pitch, she looked anxiously at Nash. She was merely the store's temporary sales girl. She could earn a 10% commission if she were able to make this sale. She had not sold many flowers today, even though it was the shop's grand opening. If she failed to sell flowers, her younger siblings would go hungry tonight. Then I'll take this one. Nash had also taken a fancy to these flowers when he entered, especially since they were advertised as being from the famous Love God Castle in Floraland. It was an acclaimed rose cultivation site cared for by top growers. Getting 99 roses from there for less than $2,000 seemed like a good deal, but he wondered about the quality. Oh! The young girl was taken aback, surprised by his quick decision. Most imported flowers were usually pre-ordered at other shops she had worked in. Still, this store's owner clearly seemed inexperienced. The imported flowers they brought in were placed there all afternoon without any customer asking about them. That was the reason why the price was reduced to $1,880, yet most customers still walked away after inquiring. She thought that this flower bouquet would have to go to waste. She never expected this customer to buy it without even asking further questions. Is there a problem? Nash asked, noticing her surprise. No, not at all. I'll wrap it up for you right away, she replied, her face lighting up with joy. She was relieved her siblings would not go hungry tonight. However, just as she was about to move to the packaging room, a young man with dyed blonde hair and a group of young ruffians burst into the shop. The blonde men sneered, "Luna, you've made me search endlessly for you." Chapter 544. The young woman stopped in her tracks, her frail body trembling slightly. The blonde youth approached and grabbed Luna by the hair. "Your father already sold you to my family, and you dared to run away? Let me go!" Luna covered her hair with both hands, her brows tightly furrowed in pain. The blonde youth dragged Luna out, saying, "Come home with me now. I'll have my way with you tonight." At that moment, a woman in her 30s emerged from the back packaging room. Seeing Luna about to be taken away, she immediately frowned and said, "Stop! What do you think you're doing?" Several youths beside the blonde one stepped in front of the woman, smiling faintly. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern you." The shopkeeper looked at the blonde youth and said, "This is the city center. The city hall and patrol office are just 300 meters away. I'll call the cops on you." The blonde youth squinted. "Say one more word and I'll trash your shop." The woman gritted her teeth, not daring to stir trouble too easily. She had saved money for a long time to open this store. If it got wrecked on its opening day, she would truly be ruined. The youth then glared at Nash, yelling, "What are you looking at, huh? Believe me, I'll gouge your eyes out." Nash paused for a moment, then laughed. "My eyes are mine to use as I please. Aren't you being a bit too nosy?" Being so brazen near the city hall, this young man must have backing. "Fuck! How dare you talk to Claude like that?" A lackey from the blonde youth's side brazenly approached Nash. Before he even reached Nash, he was slapped to the ground. Without even letting out a scream, he passed out with blood oozing from his nose and mouth. Nash shook off his hand nonchalantly, saying, "Why are you trying to fight when you can't even walk properly?" The lad looked about 17 or 18. In Nash's eyes, he was just a brat. Nash had not even used his full strength, but the boy could not withstand it. How dare you hit my man?" Claude Lee stared angrily at Nash. "I'm with one of the Lees. There are very few families in Johnford who don't know who I am. Even the people from the governor's office show me respect, and you dare lay a hand on my people." Nash took a few steps toward Claude. He slapped him twice, once on each cheek, without hesitation. His relationship with the Lees was quite good. He could be considered doing a good deed by disciplining one of their youngsters. Claude was completely dumbfounded and stared at Nash in disbelief. You're really..." There was another slap from Nash. This one was stronger, causing Claude's jaw to dislocate. He shakily pointed at Nash, mumbling, You guys, kill him." Several lackeys with fierce expressions lunged at Nash. There were no fancy moves, merely one slap for each of them. All four fell to the ground, groaning. They did not even see how Nash made his move. Claude realized Nash was a martial artist, so no wonder he was so fearless. He pulled out his phone to call his uncle. After receiving Claude's call, Joseph immediately sent Olivia to handle it. "Dad, you never discipline Claude even when he's always causing trouble outside. If you keep spoiling him like this, he'll get even worse," Olivia said with clear reluctance. Claude was her cousin. After her second uncle passed away, her second aunt took Claude and left the Lees. Their family held 30% of all shares under the Lees businesses. Their annual dividends surpassed the income of those third-rate families. Joseph chuckled helplessly. "What can I do? Your second uncle passed away early, and as the elder brother, I can't just abandon his wife and child, can I? This is the last time I'm helping him. If there's any more trouble in the future, deal with it yourself." With a cold expression, Olivia left her father's study. It would have been one thing if Claude was the one who had been provoked by others, but every time, it was Claude who took the initiative to seek trouble. Chapter 555. Was helping him out not just aiding and abetting? Watching his daughter's angry departure, Joseph sighed helplessly. In the flower shop, Luna and the shop owner were completely stunned. Nash took out his card and tapped it at the machine. "Prepare my flowers first. Don't worry about the rest." A receipt came out for a payment of $1,880. Hearing the sound of the receipt being printed, the shop owner finally snapped back to reality and quickly nodded. "Okay, please wait a moment, sir." The shop owner went to the back to prepare the order. Nash pulled up a chair, crossed his legs, and sat down. You wait. Soon you'll be begging like a dog." Claude, who was covering his mouth, struggled to speak. He wanted to curse at Nash. However, since backup from his family had not arrived, he swallowed back his words. Once his uncle's martial experts arrived, this guy would realize who he had offended. "Is that so?" Nash sat calmly in the chair, smiling slightly. Then, "I'll wait and see." Claude felt like laughing at Nash's nonchalant demeanor. He had already revealed his connection to the Lees, yet Nash remained defiant. Truly, ignorance was bliss. "Mister, the Lees are a top-tier family in Johnford, almost on par with the Watsons. You should leave now." Luna's eyebrows furrowed. There were still tear stains on her cheeks. As impressive as this man was, he surely could not face a major family on his own. "No worries. I'm somewhat acquainted with the Lees. If I teach their youths a lesson, they might even thank me." "Huh?" Luna looked puzzled. Nash appeared disheveled and ragged, not someone who would seem connected to the Lees. Nash, not wanting to explain further, shifted the topic. "Were you sold to the Lees by your father?" With a desolate look in her eyes, Luna nodded. "My dad racked up debts from drinking and gambling. After selling our house, which wasn't enough to cover it, he sold me." While recalling this, Luna burst into tears. Nash snorted. "Human trafficking is illegal." With that, he took out his phone and called Angelica. "And Mr. Calcraft." Angelica was slightly surprised to hear from Nash, her voice filled with astonishment. "I'm reporting a case of human trafficking." "Where?" "Warm Flower Garden." "All right. I'm on my way." Even though it was off-duty hours, it didn't hinder her from responding, especially since the one reporting was Nash. Even Chief Zink would have personally responded if Nash were to call. Just as Nash finished his call, 3 luxury cars were parked outside. Olivia, dressed in black leather, arrived with 2 great grandmasters and about 10 elite bodyguards from her family. Upon seeing Nash seated there, Olivia felt a jolt of shock. Could it be that Nash was the one Claude had offended this time around? Claude turned to see that his cousin and her entourage were here. Then, with a malicious smile, he got up and said arrogantly, "You bastard, my cousin's here now. If I don't break your legs today, I'll..." Before he could finish, an invisible force sent him flying, landing right next to Olivia. Luna's face turned pale. That woman was Miss Olivia, CEO of Drake Group. She was Claude's cousin. It was over. This mister might really be in trouble. Chapter 556. Claude clutched his chest, taking a while to catch his breath. A few of his underlings rushed over, scrambling to help him up. Oli, it's this bastard. Even after seeing you arrive, he still dares to lay his hands on me. Look, my jaw got dislocated. Claude pointed to his cheek in pain. The left side of his cheekbone was noticeably indented. Shut up! Olivia slapped him across the face. Claude spat out a mouthful of blood from the impact. Darkness clouded his vision, and his ears rang. Oli, why? Claude covered his face and backed away. Then, he looked towards several of the family's great grandmasters. You people, attack this instant. The two elderly figures lowered their heads. As core members of the Lees, they were aware of some of Nash's secrets. The overwhelming aura that came from being in the profound reality realm had them struggling to breathe. Nash, he's my cousin. Can you spare him a little? Olivia stammered. She would rather Claude offend the governor of Johnford than Nash, the man known for annihilating the Green Bamboo Association. You ought to rein him in. Nash glanced at Claude. If it weren't for the Lee's sake, he wouldn't even be standing now. Olivia grinned. Thank you, Nash. I'll make sure to discipline him when we get back. She then looked at the sleeve of Nash's right arm. Nash, what happened here? It's nothing. Just a minor scratch. Nash dismissed her query. Olivia turned her fierce gaze back to Claude. I'll deal with you when we get back. Claude's legs weakened from fear. His cousin did not pamper him like his uncle did. Her husband was the son of the skies, giving her a high status in the family. No one would stop her from taking action against Claude. At that moment, Angelica entered with several inspectors. Upon seeing Olivia and the battered Claude, she could guess what had transpired. Mr. Calcraft, was it you who called earlier? Yes. There's something suspicious about this girl's father. I suggest you investigate, Nash said, pointing to the dazed Luna beside him. Luna tremblingly defended, saying, My father isn't suspicious. Regardless of his actions, he was still her father. That was why she had not reported him. Moreover, her father was not always like this. After her gold-digging mother left him for a wealthier man, he went down the wrong path. Angelica could naturally sense that Luna was protecting her father. She sternly said, If your father has indeed committed illegal actions and you're covering for him, you'll be charged with aiding and abetting. Luna bit her lip and shuddered. Nash looked at Olivia and said calmly, The Lee's son shouldn't be lacking in women anyway. Why does he need to buy them? Olivia said tremblingly, It's our fault for not disciplining him better. Please, Nash, forgive us. I'll keep a closer eye on Claude in the future. Nash turned to Luna. How much did he pay your father? Luna shook her head. My father didn't sell me. She knew if she said too much, her father would end up in jail. Seeing Nash's determination to see this through, Olivia hurriedly said, Nash, how about you let me handle this? I'll make sure to resolve this issue properly for her. Just then, the shop owner emerged holding a bouquet of pink roses. Sir, your roses are ready. Seeing so many people in the store, her face turned tense. Nash checked the time and realized it was past 10 in the evening. All right. Make sure you handle this properly. Chapter 457. Nash took the roses and headed out. Olivia quickly responded, realizing that if she did not handle the situation properly and Nash stepped in, her cousin would likely be in real trouble. One of the officers next to Angelica asked, Chief White, what should we do? Just let them handle it privately. Angelica replied nonchalantly, leading her team away with the rest of the officers following behind. Olivia smiled and said to Luna, Take me to your home, young miss. Luna pressed her red lips together and responded, Miss Olivia, there's no need. I'll definitely pay back the 30,000 I owe Mr. Lee too. Olivia smiled and said, You don't need to pay back that money. Also, I'll give you an additional 200,000 as an apology on behalf of my cousin. 200,000? Luna's heart was beating wildly. She then started shaking her head vigorously. No. I can't accept that. Not asking me to repay the 30,000 is already a huge favor. Being in her first year of university and coming from a poor family, even 30,000 seemed astronomical to her, let alone $200,000. Oli, it was her father who tried to sell her. Why should I pay? Isn't this a matter of mutual consent? Slap! Olivia slapped Claude again and said to her bodyguards, take him home and enforce our family's punishment. What? The family punishment? The Lee's family punishment was set by their grandfather. It was 100 lashes with a thorned whip. This punishment had never been executed on anyone before. Olivia coldly ordered, take him away. If the brat did not learn his lesson now, he would cause big trouble for the Lees in the future. Even her doting father would not be able to intervene this time. As the bodyguards started to take Claude away, one of them said, Miss Olivia, Mr. Claude is severely injured. We should take him to the hospital first. He'll eventually end up in the hospital anyway. Let him suffer a bit more first. Olivia replied with a cold smirk and had a very firm attitude. She then turned to Luna. Her tone softened as she asked, young miss, you may take me to your home now. Luna hesitatingly replied, my home is very messy and dirty. Olivia smiled warmly. It's okay. Just take me over and let me have a look. Arriving at Luna's home, Olivia was taken aback. Luna, along with a 7 or 8-year-old brother and a 5-year-old sister, were all living under a bridge. The area was dark, damp, and littered with trash. You don't have a home? Olivia asked, stunned by the sight. With tears in her eyes, Luna nodded. My father sold our house. She shared her story with Olivia, who felt deep sympathy toward her. When Olivia was 17 or 18, she had thousands to spend every month. Yet here was Luna, at the same age, struggling with hunger and living under a bridge. Miss Olivia, please don't enforce the family punishment on Mr. Claude. He goes to the same university as me and once helped me fend off some bullies. Luna spoke timidly. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Really? Luna nodded. Yeah. On my first day at university, some seniors tried to harass me. Mr. Claude thought they were an eyesore and stepped in, beating them up. A small smile formed on Olivia's lips. As she was often busy with business matters, she seldom paid attention to her cousin. Every time she encountered him, it was usually to clean up his messes. She had always perceived Claude as a tyrant but never realized he had a kind side. Perhaps Claude was trying to help Luna in his own way. Take your valuables and come stay with me at the hotel. Chapter 458. Olivia had roughly guessed it. Claude probably fell in love with this young girl at first sight. However, due to his brash personality, he was too proud to pursue her directly, which led him to use some extreme methods. Regardless, he should not have provoked Nash. Punishment was still necessary. At Royal Bay, the Harrison couple and Hera were sitting together, sorting out reports. Scotty, sitting cross-legged on the floor, mumbled, your family is truly full of workaholics. Even at home, you never rest. Hera playfully scolded, what's wrong? Getting tired of us now? I wouldn't dare. You're the darling wife of Johnford's strongest martial artist. Sighing, Hera placed the organized reports on the coffee table. It's been 7 days. I wonder when he'll return. They had been having conflicts recently. Just when things were resolved, he left for another place. The thunderstorm the night before kept Hera restless. She continuously remembered the first time she slept in Nash's arms. Hera, Nash is back. Scotty tugged at Hera's sleeve, pointing outside. Hera slapped Scotty's hand away. Are you trying to trick me again? I don't hear anything. For the past few days, Scotty had teased her multiple times. She fell for it the first couple of times. Now, she refused to believe Scotty. Dad, Mom, Hera. Nash entered with a bouquet of pink roses, smiling broadly. Hearing Nash's voice, Hera trembled. The Harrison couple quickly looked toward the door. It really was Nash. Everyone set aside their paperwork, smiles emerging on their faces. Nashy, you're finally back. Have you eaten yet? Maria has left for the day. I'll cook something for you. As Lauren was about to get up, Harrison grabbed her wrist. We've worked all day. It's time for us to rest. Let Hera cook for him. Oh, right. I've been so busy these days. My back and shoulders are aching, Lauren complained, rubbing her shoulder. I'll give you a massage when we get home, Harrison said, chuckling and pulling Lauren away. I just came back and you guys are already leaving, Nash said, both amused and resigned. They're just giving you and Hera some space. I'll be leaving too, Scotty replied. Standing up, she glanced at the roses in Nash's hand and said with a smile, I never thought you knew how to be romantic. She felt a twinge of jealousy. When would she receive roses from the one she loved? Nash, with teary eyes, Hira threw herself into the arms of the man she had missed so dearly. Nash opened his arms and embraced her tightly. I missed you so much, Hira said, her voice choking with emotion. Nash kissed her forehead gently. I missed you too. Before he could finish, Hira tiptoed and pressed her lips against his. They passionately kissed for a while. When Hira finally pulled away, she was short of breath, and her face was flushed. Nash then handed Hira the roses, saying gracefully, For you, these are pink roses from the Love God Castle, symbolizing my intense love for you. They're beautiful. I love you so much, Hira exclaimed, taking the roses. Then, she took out her phone and said, Quick, let's take a selfie. Such a romantic moment was definitely worth capturing and sharing to the world on social media. They took several pictures in the living room. The moment Hira posted them, Scotty liked the post and commented with a furious emoji, Shoot, you should just drop dead. Setting her phone aside, Hira asked, Are you hungry? I'll cook something for you to eat. I'd rather have you. Chapter 459. The intimacy from earlier had ignited Nash's desires. Every time he wanted to get intimate with Hira, something unexpected would happen. Counting the days, he had been away in Xanthalos for 9 days, so Hira's menstrual period should have already passed. All right, let's go. Hira pulled Nash and began to walk upstairs. Nash wore a puzzled expression. What was going on? Should she not have hesitated and playfully resisted him? Why did it seem like she was even more eager than him? They returned to the bedroom and immediately kissed again. From the door to the bedside, they finally tumbled onto the bed. Nash's hands were not idle either. They were freely exploring underneath Hira's clothing. Hira pressed Nash's hand and exhaled softly. Maybe I should take a shower first. Nash smirked. Together? Hira blushed. No way. That'd be so embarrassing. At that moment, Hira's phone rang. Nash's lips twitched at the sound. He silently prayed it was not an emergency. Mr. Wilson, what is it at this hour? Miss Lewis, the server room is on fire, Mr. Wilson said urgently. What? Hira turned pale and quickly got up from the bed. We installed fire-resistant cotton and aluminum foil in the server room. How could it catch fire? Mr. Wilson said gravely. It's definitely not a wiring issue. It's most likely that someone intentionally set it on fire. Hira took a deep breath. How's the fire now? Is it under control? Looking at the raging fire outside the window, Mr. Wilson replied with a hoarse voice, The fire is out of control. We have to wait for the fire brigade. Hira's phone dropped to the floor. Someone had deliberately set the fire. Who was it? Who could it be? Nash said with a somber face. Let's head there now. Hira drove at breakneck speed toward the southern suburbs. Meanwhile, inside Helena's apartment, Kai had just taken a shower. Helena asked with a grin, Baroque's subsidiary is on fire. Did you arrange for that? On the TV, Johnford's current news was being broadcast live. Half of the factory area was ablaze. Having not groomed himself for several days, Kai appeared more mature and weathered. Glancing at the TV report, he calmly said, Do you think I still have the capability to arrange for such a thing? Helena sighed. When will your grandfather's sanctions against you end? The sanctions against Kai by Walter were even stricter than being blacklisted. Not only was he restricted from taking trains or high-speed rails, but even restaurants on the streets would refuse him. Helena ordered takeout for him daily. Kai sat on the couch in silence. Then, Helena bit her lip, saying, Maybe you should apologize to Nash. If you make amends, perhaps your grandfather will forgive you. Last time, Nash had helped save both her and Kai. Her feelings of animosity toward Nash and Hira had diminished by a whole lot. Moreover, Walter's sanctions against Kai were due to him offending Nash. If Kai apologized and Walter lifted the sanctions, her business would get back on its feet. Narrowing his eyes, Kai stated, I've said it before. Even if I die, I won't bow down and apologize to him. Helena frowned in annoyance. But we can't keep living like this. You have expensive taste, and I can't afford to support you. Had it been before, she would never have dared to be angry with Kai. Yet now, after facing a month of business challenges and accumulating debt, things were different. Her father had gone gray overnight. Her mother had left, and if things continued this way, she would be ruined. Kai gritted his teeth and said, I'll try to contact some old friends tomorrow. Chapter 460. He had always cared about his reputation. He did not want to continue relying on others either. If they did not figure something out soon, he and Helena would really end up on the streets. Helena scoffed. Which of your underlings hasn't fled the moment trouble arose? Do you still care about your reputation? Your reputation's been destroyed after everything that happened at Duncan's house. Shut up, Kai yelled, fuming with rage. The humiliation at Duncan's place, where he was made to kneel and bark like a dog, was something that haunted him forever. He only revealed it because he was drunk. Helena realized she hit Kai's sore spot and softly said, Kai, I'm sorry. After all, Kai approached Duncan to help her repay a 20 million debt. Kai grabbed a beer from the fridge and went to the balcony. He stared at the night outside, quietly drowning his sorrows in alcohol. At Baroque's subsidiary office, the fire from the server room had spread to the warehouse. Night shift security and workshop employees were all trying to save the important items stored there. The fire brigade had already arrived. Firefighters were trying to put out the fire with their hoses. Strangely, the more they poured water on it, the bigger the flames got. This is weird. A young firefighter adjusted his helmet as he continued to battle the flames. A distraught Hans approached and said, Sirs, please, don't let the fire reach the warehouse. The warehouse contained imported components and USB drives. It took 3 whole months to procure these vital components for upgrading their old chip machines. For their project with Drake, they needed to enhance the performance of these chip machines. If anything happened to these components, the delivery date for the Drake project would be delayed by at least 3 months or even more. I understand your concerns, but this fire is unusual. Does your server room contain any chemicals? The firefighter asked with furrowed brows. Hans shook his head with a wry smile. That's a server room with higher temperatures. Why would we store chemicals there? And we have inspections every 3 months. Our fire safety measures strictly follow production standards. The firefighter sighed. Someone must have started this fire intentionally. They must have added a certain chemical powder in the warehouse which reacts with water. There's even a risk of explosion. A massive explosion rang out, originating from the server room. The shockwave knocked several firefighters off their feet. Flames instantly engulfed the warehouse. With a face of utter despair, Hans muttered, It's over. All is lost. As Hera parked her car outside the company, she heard the explosion from inside the factory. The blast was deafening. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, remaining motionless. I hope it didn't reach the warehouse. Hera's voice trembled as she opened the car door and ran toward the factory. At that moment, Jupiter and Angelica arrived with a large inspection team. Mr. Calcraft, we came to help put out the fire. Jupiter approached with purposeful strides. Nash replied, Thank you, Chief Holt, but please help me find out who started the fire. After saying these words, he briskly walked toward the main gate. There were too many people around, so he could not use his incredible speed. Angelica, you lead them to extinguish the fire. Squad 3, come with me to investigate the cause of this accident. Jupiter issued commands decisively. Everyone immediately acted upon his instructions. When Hera saw that half of the warehouse had already burned, her vision went black, and she fainted. Using the cover of night, Nash swiftly moved like a shadow to Hera's side and supported her.